Hey guys, so here is my Pintar paint pen owl. I was recently given the opportunity to try out these Pintar paint pens from Ontario, Canada, and I thought I'd try some out while I was on vacation. And so a little owl, it's gonna be. I also did a strawberry one. You might be able to see the leaves off to the right of the screen right now. That tutorial is also going to be on my channel, if not already. So I've started with, you got to do a couple of layers in order for the color to be nice and bold. So you got to let those layers dry. So I started with the orange nose, the beak and the eyes, and I've let those dry, and I'm going to do a second coat, possibly a third coat on the beak. Because my stone is really dark, I'm going to do a couple extra coats, that's all. But if you're working on a lighter stone, or if you're working on a stone that you've already painted white to prime it, I suggest using like a satin or possibly acrylic, but it might get built up on the tips of your paint pens. So I find satin keeps your rock a little bit smoother as well. So if you want to put a base coat of white satin on your stone before you start working with it, you don't need to do as many layers of color or coats, I guess I should say. So I've started with just a couple of little feathers, just a nice thick blue line. I'm going to put green, but I'm also going to switch this green to a bit darker as I go along. You will see that. Now I'm using the bigger tips on the paint pens right now because these are 5.0 millimeters, and these ones just have a nice, bold, like nice layer of color. You don't need to put a whole lot there. It covers so nicely. This is how you get them to work, by the way, because when you get them, they're dry at the end. So you got to bring that acrylic paint to the tip. So you shake it a lot, and then you can press the tip down onto paper. Always have paper handy, and bring the color to the tip. You can see the color bleeding into the tip. So I like this color. It's a nice dark maroon. So I'm doing like a colorful, quiet little owl for you guys today. So if you've already seen my quiet little owl tutorial with acrylic paint and a paintbrush, this one is very, very similar, only we're going to use colors and we're using paint pens because this paint pen thing is kind of new to me, but Pintar is awesome and they were nice enough to let me try their stuff. So here we go. Now I am going to let you know, you make sure the color's dry. You don't want to mix those two colors together when they're wet because it will get onto the tip of your pen and change the color. So make sure it's dry. It does dry quickly, but if you want to dry it faster, just grab your hair dryer on a cool setting and dry your layers or your colors before you turn to the next color. Now I wanted to lighten the beak, so I waited until two coats of orange were dry, and then I added like a lighter orange down the center of the beak, just to kind of give it like the impression that there's a bit of shine at the front of the beak there. Now I am using one of the finer tips. I believe it's a 0.7 millimeter tip, and that is just to outline everything. It works fabulous. It doesn't skip across my rock, but my rock is fairly smooth. So some people have said that they've had where the tip jumps across your rock and sometimes sprays out on your artwork and makes a mess of things. I don't find that these do that very often. A lot less than Posca. I found that Posca paint pens have a bit more watery texture to them, and I found that they dribbled and sprayed a little bit. But it also, once again, you have to get used to using paint pens on rough surfaces like stones. So once I learn how to use it on soft, smooth stones, or you can also pre-resin your stones so that it's really smooth before you even take a paint pen to it, and there won't be any worry about the hassles of skipping and jumping and splashing and all that other stuff that you get with paint pens on rocks once in a while. Now, the silver, I'm using silver and gold in this owl today. The silver is bright. Can you see this? This is awesome. The coverage is awesome. Um, and you know it's silver for sure. It's not watery at all. The color is nice and bold. Um, I actually love it. It's great. It's smooth when you're painting on the surface. It actually is quite smooth. I found sometimes with paint pens it feels kind of like chalk, but this is very satiny and it's beautiful. It looks fabulous. So I am doing the blue using the thicker markers because the coverage with these thicker markers are great. I find the finer markers, they're good for doing stuff with just lines. You don't want to color stuff in with those because they are kind of liquidy and it will take a lot to cover a small space with one of these little ones. But the big ones, you can color in anything and it's just like pure color. Um, it looks amazing. But I do use the little ones for different things. So for instance, I'm using a smaller one to put in those fine little white lines over top of the blue. And once again, wait till it's dry because you will, I promise you, you will make a mess of things if you try and do anything on top of wet paint pen. I promise you, I've learned from experience during my vacation last week. You wait till that stuff is dry, okay? That's my best advice. Or you're going to get really upset with yourself and just want to throw your rock. And that's not safe. So wait till it's dry before you add another color on top. That's the best advice I can come up with right now. And as you can see, it might take a little bit longer, and I'm impatient when it comes to my artwork. So that's why I have my hairdryer hooked up right beside me to do this. Now I am using, it's dry. Once again, it doesn't show you that it's dry because I didn't show you the hairdryer, but all that white and blue is all dry. So I can go over it with the black and it's not going to mess up the tip of my black and turn it all white and blue. And the black is nice and black. So I've made sure that he's got big eyeballs again after putting all those little wispy feathers around his eyes. I'm just going to add a couple of little tiny feathers along the side. Once I seal it, the background of the rock is going to come through and it'll probably make this look even better. But you can't tell yet. So I'm just putting a little bit of stuff right there on the right side of the owl. We're going to leave that open. Now I'm going to get out the gold, and as you can see, that black is dry, but it's kind of shiny. It's kind of satiny, but it is dry, I promise you. I don't want to rush it and make a mess of things in front of you guys, so I'm making sure it's dry. Now the gold, I've done like a crescent moon type of situation. Put a little bit of green, a little bit of blue right on top of the green, and then I'm actually going to shape that into a crescent moon with black. As you can see, now that it's dry, I shaped those colors into a crescent moon at the bottom. So you just use your black marker and do the shape of a crescent moon around the colors. Now I did do 2 coats of white where you bring it alive at the top with those little white bits on the eye. Here's his brother. It's been resined already, so you can see resin just brings out the colors even more. I will resin this little guy and put pictures on Facebook if you guys want to see him. But good luck. I hope you love it.